Hello and welcome to Bluebeard Sports Radio. Everyday sports made simple for everyone. I'm your host, Trey Bull, and today we're going to talk about the 2020 Tokyo Olympics that ended just a week ago on Sunday. So, the first thing I'm going to go over is your medal totals. I got the medal total count from NBCOlympics.com. So, the way they conduct who got what place and ranking on what place you were in the Olympics, they took the countries with the most gold medals. That was the first category that they sorted. If there was a tiebreaker, it would go to whoever had the most silver medals. If it was still tied after that, it went to whoever had the most bronze medals. So, no, they did not calculate it just based on total medals. It started with gold. If it was tied, it went to silver. And if it was tied, it went to bronze. So, this is how Embassy Olympics.com ranked or had everybody in order by how many gold medals they won. So we'll go in order from 10th place and up. And 10th was Italy with 10 gold medals, 10 silver medals, and 20 bronze medals, giving them a total of 40 total medals in the Olympics. In ninth place was Germany. They also had 10 gold medals. They were in ninth because they had 11 silver medals compared to Italy's 10. Then Germany had 16 bronze, giving them a grand total of 37 medals. In eighth place was France. They also had 10 gold, but they had 12 silver medals and 11 bronze. They only had 33, but once again, they ranked them by gold, then silver, then bronze totals, not by total medals overall. In seventh place was the Netherlands with 10 gold as well, 12 silver, and they had 14 bronze, which get them above France with 36 total medals. In sixth place was Australia. They had 17 gold, only 7 silver, and 22 bronze, giving them a grand total of 46. In fifth place was the Russian Olympic Committee. So the Russian Olympic Committee, they were Russians who were competing in the Olympics, but they were not allowed to actually represent their country, wear their country flag. They just wore something that was issued to them by the Olympic Committee, so they could compete. Just couldn't compete for Russia because of Russia got caught doping with steroids, things like that, to enhance their bodies to compete at a higher level. So Russia was unable to compete under their flag. So that's why they were the Russian Olympic Committee. So they were fifth, and they had 20 gold, 28 silver, and 23 bronze. So the Russian Olympic Committee had 71 total medals. And fourth was Great Britain with 22 gold, 21 silver, and 22 bronze. One of three countries to have over 20 medals of each gold, silver, and bronze. Great Britain ended up with 65 total medals. And third was the host nation, Japan. They had 27 gold medals, 14 silver medals, and 17 bronze medals, giving them a grand total of 58 total medals. And second was China. Now, China had the lead throughout the entire Olympics with more gold medals than anybody else until the last day of the Olympics. The U.S. was able to get two more in order to tie and then pass China to get first. So China had 38 gold, 32 silver, and 18 bronze. They had 88 total medals. So in first was the U.S. with 39 total gold. So like I said, they got those two medals on the last day in order to pass China. Ended up with 41 silver and 33 bronze, giving them a grand total of 113 medals. So they had 25 more medals than the next closest country, China, in the Olympics. U.S. was the only country to get 30 medals of both gold, silver, and bronze. So U.S. was all over the board. We did a great job competing. We had a lot of great athletes go out there and do their thing. Those are the top 10 countries. Once again, Italy, Germany, France, Netherlands, Australia, the Russian Olympic Committee, Great Britain, Japan, China, and the U.S. So those are the top 10 in medals rankings, according to NBCOlympics.com. Those are the big countries that everybody knows about. They win events all the time. But there were three countries that had never won a gold medal or never won a medal, period, not even just gold, that were able to crack into that this year and get their first Olympic medals. So one of that first country I'm going to talk about is Turkmenistan. They have been in the Olympics every year since 1996. Every Summer Olympics since 1996, and they finally got their first medal. It came by Polina Gurieva. She was a 21-year-old weightlifter. She won silver in the women's 59 kilogram competition. So that includes two lifts. You got a snatch lift where you grab the weight down at your ankles and you pull it up and just throw it up above your head. And then the other one is the clean and jerk. So they grab it, pull that weight up to their knees, and then they pull it up to their chin and flip their arms underneath the bar, and then they push it up. So just two different kind of lifts there. She had 96 kilograms, which was about 211 pounds on the snatch. She had 121 kilograms, which is about 267 pounds on the clean and jerk, giving her a personal best of 217 total kilograms or 478 pounds. So once again, 21-year-old weightlifter Polina Gurieva won silver for Turkmenistan for their first ever Olympic medal. Next country I'm going to talk about, they got their first medal was San Marino. Uh, they've been going for 61. It's been 61 years since they started going to the Olympics. They have the fifth smallest population in the world, so they don't really have a whole lot of athletes to pick from in order to go and compete. So the fact that they were able to get their first medal, not only did they get their first medal, they got their first three medals in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. First is Alessandra Pirelli. She got bronze in trap shooting, or we might know that as clay shooting. Shotgun, pull, you shoot the clay out of the sky. She got 29 out of 40 to get the bronze medal. The person who got fourth had 28 out of 40. So it was a very tight competition that she was able to just get that one extra clay in order to get the bronze medal for her country. The next medal they got was a couple days later. It was Alessandra Pirelli and Gianmarco Berti. They competed in the mixed trap shooting and they got silver. They were going up against the country that got gold, and it was once again another close match. They just happened to miss it by a couple clays. And then finally, for San Marino, the third medal that they were able to get in the Olympics was Miles Amin, wrestling men's freestyle 86 kilogram class. He got bronze. So once again, those three athletes were able to get their first medals for their country. And then the last country to get their first medal in the Olympic history was Burkina Faso. They'd been in every Summer Olympics since 1988, and they were finally able to get through that barrier and get their first Olympic medal. It was by Fabrice Zongo. He got bronze in the men's triple jump with a jump of 17.47 meters. He was able to barely squeeze past the fourth place person by 0.03 meters. That's 3/100ths of a meter. And he did that over the American Will Clay, who had been a previous medalist in previous Olympics for US. So those are the three countries that were able to get their first ever medal in Olympic history. So not only did that happen in the 2020 Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, we also had three countries ever win their first gold medal here in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. So we're going to start with the Philippines. They got their first ever gold medal with Hidilyn Diaz. She was a weightlifter. She set an Olympic record in both the clean and jerk event and the total score in the women's 55 kilogram. So when it says the women's 55 kilogram, that's her weight class, how much she weighs in the class that she's competing against. Other people weigh the same as she does, but she set an Olympic record in both the clean and jerk event and the total score. So that's the total scores where they add the clean and jerk and the snatch lift. They add those two together, and she set an Olympic record. Uh, so the next country that got their first ever gold medal was Bermuda. It was their second ever Olympic medal in their country's history. So this was their second medal to ever get, and it was gold. It was Flora Duffy in the triathlon. She won by over a minute. She just blew away the competition. She did really well in the cycling and swimming to get herself a big enough lead in order to get across the finish line with over a minute before the next competitor. The last country to get their first gold medal was Qatar, and this time they won 2 gold medals. Not only did they get their first, they got their first 2. Their first one was by Ibrahim El Bak, weightlifting in the men's 96 kilogram class. And once again, he set an Olympic record with a grand total of 402 kilograms. So that's an awesome job for him, for his country. The other gold medal they got was by Essa Barsham in the men's high jump. So now this one is interesting because they tied um, Gianmarco Tamberi of Italy, and they agreed to share the gold medal. So instead of having to jump off or, hey, let's just raise it 1 inch, just see who can get there, they just said, you know what? Let's just share the podium and let's both get gold. It was one of the most defining moments in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. These two guys, competitors, just embracing each other and saying, yes, we both did it. We both are the best of the world at what we do. Uh, so that was an awesome moment for them to share. So those are the 3 countries that got their first gold medal. Uh, Very exciting for them in order to crack that barrier and actually have someone reach the top pinnacle in their sport. So speaking of sports, we actually had new events for the first time ever in this 2020 Tokyo Olympics. One of those events was skateboarding. So freestyle skateboarding. They had 2 different categories. They had the women's street and the women's park that they competed in. So we had 4 total events with men's and women's street and park. Nashia Momija won the gold women's streets for Japan. 2 Japanese skaters won. One won gold, one won silver in the women's street. Um, for the women's park, it was Sakara Yosozumi from Japan. Uh, and then her Japanese teammate got bronze. So Japan and the women's did a really good job of competing in the skateboarding competition. For the men's park competition, it was Keegan Palmer getting gold from Australia. Uh, and then for the men's street competition, it was Yuto Horigami who got gold for Japan. So Japan apparently does a really great job with skateboarding. I unfortunately did not watch a whole lot of that event. It just wasn't as televised. Did see some really cool things come out of it. Um, it was awesome the fact that it was actually in there. Too bad it just was so late. You know, guys like Tony Hawk and other guys that we know from pro skateboarding that could have been in this years ago if it was in the Olympics. Um, Another new event this year was surfing. Um, they had one competition and it was broken up into several heats, and each heat could last anywhere from 20 to 35 minutes, just giving the surfers plenty of opportunity to catch a wave in order to get scored on how well they did. So they had each heat, and when they finally got down to the quarterfinals, then there was about 4 or 5 athletes that competed in the quarterfinals. And then in the semifinals, you had 2-on-2 and 2-on-2, and then the top 2 from each of those competed for the gold medal. And in the men's, it was Italo Ferreira who got the golds from Brazil. And for the women's, it was Carissa Moore who got the gold medal for the United States. So surfing, another new event that came in that was a very cool thing to have as part of the Olympics. Uh, Karate was another new one. And then there's also the sport climbing, or AKA rock climbing, event that went on. You had 3 different events in it. They had the speed round, which you had a 15-meter wall, which is about 50 feet high, and you just try to get through it as fast as you can. And you have A and B, like 2 guys are competing right next to each other to see how fast you can get to the top. The other event is called bouldering, which is a much shorter wall. It's only about 4.5 meters or 15 feet. Now the boulders are a little more separated, and what they're trying to do is try and get you to manipulate your body in order to get to the top Um, it's more of kind of like a skills competition than speed. And then they have the lead competition. Back to that 50-foot wall, but it's more of the bouldering competition. You got wider, the boulders are wider apart. It's about speed, but it's also about reaching as high as you can. Most athletes can't even get all the way to the top. So it's just trying to get as high as you can without losing. It's more of an endurance competition. So you have all three of those categories. They compete in each one, and once they do that, they take what place you got in each one. And this is where it gets a little different. They multiply your ranking in each one. So if you got first, second, and third, it'd be 1 times 2, which is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Your total score was 6, and the person with the lowest total score after the 3 rounds would get the gold medal. So a little different kind of scoring and placing for sport climbing for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And the last new event that was in this Olympics was the 3x3 basketball. Now, I thought this was probably one of the most fun events to watch of the Olympics overall, even though it was one of the newer sports. You've got basically 4 people on each team, and one person's a sub, and it's constant basketball for 10 minutes. If they call a foul, okay, cool, take it up top, uh, and you go. Once you hit 7 fouls, it's free throws. The difference is the 3-point line, the arc that goes around the outside. It's called the 3-point line in every other basketball game. But in 3x3 basketball, if you shoot from outside of that line, it's worth 2 points. If you shoot and score from inside that line, it's only 1 point. Um, so it's not as high scoring. You have 10-minute games. First team to 21. You do not have to win by 2. Just like we usually play in the backyard. Oh, no, you got to win by 2. No, it's first team to 21 wins it. And then the crazy part is a lot of games went to overtime. And the overtime for this, it's okay. You got 2 minutes. First team to score as many points in 2 minutes. No, it's first team to score 2 points, not win by 2. First team to score 2 points. Uh, so it was a very exciting game to watch. It's constant moving. If I shoot and score, the other team gets the ball out from under the basket, and they have to dribble it out, pass it outside the 3-point line in order to bring the ball back in to score. So it's constant moving the ball. These guys are running around like crazy. They usually competed twice a day, so it was crazy to watch this event play out. Uh, for the men's, Latvia was the second favorite going into the event. Serbia was the number one favorite. They ended up getting bronze, but Latvia for the men's got gold. Um, and for the women's, it was the U.S. who got gold, and the Russian Olympic Committee got silver in both. So Russia came in, and they were just shooting lights out, and they definitely exceeded their expectations for the event of 3x3 basketball. That was probably my most exciting event to watch out of all of the 2020 Olympics. And then this year we also had 2 sports return to the Olympics. We had baseball and softball. So these 2 events, primarily it was mostly softball. These 2 events got removed originally because it was the same 2 countries winning over and over again for softball. It was either the U.S. or Japan. They just competed, and it was U.S. winning the majority of it. Japan sprinkling here and there to win. So they took them out just because it just wasn't fair. The other countries just weren't at the same level to compete and for gold. It was just U.S. Japan, U.S. Japan, U.S. Japan, U.S. Japan. Uh, so speaking of that, with baseball, the gold medal game was Japan versus U.S. So once again, we still had Japan and U.S. going for gold. Japan did squeak out, and they did win gold over the U.S. in baseball, and the Dominican Republic got bronze. For softball, once again, it was the gold medal game was Japan and the U.S. Now, the interesting thing about this is they actually played each other 2 days before, and the game that they played, they already knew that they were going to face each other in the gold medal match in 2 days. So this game here was to see who was going to get home field advantage. And Japan had shut out the American team, no hit them for over 6 innings. It was the 7th inning before the U.S. even got their first hit. And they only play 7 inning games. And finally, U.S. was able to crack it and win the game and get home field advantage for the gold medal match. But Japan was just their pitching was too much. U.S. couldn't get anything going offensively in that gold medal game. So Japan got gold, U.S. got silver, and in the bronze match, Canada beat Mexico for the bronze. So those are the new events plus returning events that came into the Olympics. It's a crazy time for that to happen. So very exciting Olympics. There is one thing I do want to talk about the Olympics, and that's just the women that were competing in these games that are like brand new moms or moms. These are the U.S. women's moms who were competing in the Olympics. And the reason I want to bring this up is my wife and I just had our second kid, and I can only imagine with everything your body goes through with having a child that these women were able to recover and get back and compete at such a high level and make it to the Olympics and then go on and do really well. A lot of these women did win medals in the Olympics. So it was just crazy. It's crazy to me in my head what they go through in order to get back into top physical shape in order to compete at the highest level in their event. So I'm just going to give a shout out. I think these women are unbelievable. We have Skylar Diggins Smith on the women's basketball team. She had her son in 2019. So a year before the Olympics was supposed to be, she had her son, and luckily the Olympics got moved back, so she had a little bit more time to recover. I'm getting this information from an NBC Sports article by Alex Ezzy. The next one is Diana Taurasi, basketball. She had her son in 2018. Marielle Zuginis in fencing had her daughter in 2017. Alex Morgan had her daughter in early 2020. So she really benefited from the Olympics being delayed. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to compete in the soccer tournament for the U.S. You had Gwendolyn Berry for the hammer throw. You had Quinera Hayes running the 400 meters. She had her son in 2018. She had a huge quote saying that she just, after the coming back and trying to get back in shape for the Olympics, she was struggled getting out of the. This is a quote from her. She struggled getting out of the blocks, and her stride just felt different. Like she just, her body just wasn't reacting the way that she thought it how it usually reacted. So she had to rebuild those muscles in order to act the same in order to compete at a high level. And her story is very interesting. Her son was visiting his grandparents in the Bahamas, and the Bahamas had a COVID shutdown. You couldn't get in or out of the Bahamas. So she went a period of 4 months where she couldn't see, couldn't get her son to her. She had a period of 4 months where she was unable to see her son grow up. Luckily, they were able to get reunited, and she was able to compete at the Olympics. So next we have Sally Kipyego. She ran the marathon. She had a daughter in 2017. Brittany Reese competed in the long jump. This was her second game as a mom, and she adopted her second son in 2016. So we had Alafine Tuliamuk also ran the marathon. She had her daughter in January of 2021. So the same year of the Olympics, she had her daughter. Um, and she had apparently talked with her husband beforehand that they were originally going to try and have their kid after the 2020 Olympics. Well, after the 2020 Olympics got pushed back, they decided to go ahead and move up those plans, and had their daughter in January of 2021. So the same year as the Olympics. So she was able to come back and then compete in the marathon, run 26.2 miles. That's insane. Kat Osterman had her daughter in 2016. She retired in 2015. She retired from softball, right? The Olympics aren't hosting softball anymore. She retired. She came out of retirement to compete in this year's Olympics. We had Faluk Gunderson for volleyball. She had her son in 2019. This was her third Olympics, and this was her first one as a mom. And she said it was just completely different in order to compete for and be an inspiration for her child back home. The last woman I want to talk about, she's huge right now, and that's Allison Felix, who runs the 400 meter. She had her daughter in 2018, and it was an emergency C-section. So she had her daughter in 2018, and she came back and she was able to compete. And this was her fifth Olympics, so she's much older. She was able to compete after having a child, and not only that, having a C-section. But the reason I wanted to save her for last to talk about this is she was the most decorated woman track athlete after the 2016 Rio Olympics with 9 total medals. So through 4 Olympics, she was already the most decorated woman track athlete with 9. This year in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, she became the most decorated track athlete in U.S. Olympic history with 11 medals. So not just the most decorated woman track athlete, she is the most decorated track athlete in U.S. history, U.S. Olympic history, with 11 medals. She passed Carl Lewis, who had 10 medals. Um, so a lot of amazing things came out of the 2020 Olympics, uh, aka the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. It was an amazing 2.5 weeks of events that happened, and it was great to watch it, even if it wasn't live or if you were trying to watch it live. It's a 13-hour time difference. But speaking of that 13-hour time difference, the Winter Olympics is less than 6 months away from right now. Starting February 4th in 2022, uh, they are going to be hosted in Beijing, China. So the time difference is going to be that much different for the Winter Olympics. So if you're going to watch some of the events, it's going to be at late night or it's going to be recorded. Um, so we have less than 6 minutes now to get ready for the Winter Olympics. Um, Once again, all in all, the 2020 Tokyo Olympics was an exciting time to watch. These athletes compete at a high level and have fun doing it. You saw so many of them embrace each other from different countries, and they were just happy to be there to compete for their country. So excited to get ready for the next Olympics. And thank you for listening to me, and thank you for coming on and listening to Bluebeard Sports Radio.